That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Monsoon, the sophomore film directed by Hong Khaou, which premiered at the 2019 Karlovy Vary Film Festival and is being released, courtesy of Tran Releasing, October 13, 2020.
Ugh. We both had a bout of food poisoning.
Yeah, we did. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just glad to be back.
I think this was the last thing we watched before that.
Yeah.
Anyway, back.
Not any thinner, me. But this movie is about a man, a Vietnamese man named...
A British Vietnamese man named Kit.
Kit. Kit was born in Vietnam and left during the war to Britain. Mm-hmm. So he has a British accent. But we find Kit returning to Vietnam as an adult.
30 years later, we're told.
For two things. One, to sort of fling his dead parents' ashes somewhere. Mm-hmm. And also kind of like a homecoming tour. So he visits like several places his family used to live.
Correct.
The movie is basically Kit, who is a gay man, going on a date. It seems like it was like a Grindr hookup that turned into like a date that then like these two people had a connection, but it's very loose. They only meet like 3 times throughout the film. So there's that going on. Then there's Kit sort of traveling from like,
Saigon to
Hanoi. He goes on like a tour.
Yeah, he goes on in the rather inert relationship developing with Lewis, played by Parker Sawyers, he meets a young woman who I believe is named Linh, played by Molly Harris, and she works as a museum tour guide in Hanoi, so he reconnects with her there, and then there is a tangent where, and I think we were supposed to draw some parallels with him, where she's trying to distance herself from her own family business, where her mother is invested in making Lotus tea, which is a product that only the older generation seems to buy. But we were invited to witness that process as well.
We also find Kit, because we find out maybe halfway through the film that he is meeting his brother in Vietnam as well. Mm-hmm. So they're both traveling to Vietnam separately to spread their parents' ashes.
Who died at separate times. And the mother's been dead. The mother was the last to die, and I think he says it's been a year. I don't recall now, but...
So we find Kit doing like FaceTime calls with his nephews. Mm-hmm. We never see them in the FaceTime calls. We just see Kit talking with headphones on to a screen, which was very dry. The film ends with sort of a montage.
Yes, you slept
Continue. Yeah, this film was very dry to me. Go ahead.
Which is ironic because of the title is the Monsoon, the wet season.
Yes.
Very dry film. We can get back to that title. But the very end is, it's a montage set to music where Kit goes to the airport to meet, you see him greeting his nephews and sister-in-law and his brother, they hug, and that cuts immediately to a nightclub scene where he's with Parker Sawyers and they order a drink, make out at the bar, and then go look up at the rooftop at the sky of Vietnam.
So you would agree not much happens?
No.
But anyway, let's start with the positive. First off, this film's getting attention because Henry Golding is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, he is a big deal.
And he's playing like a gay character, and from what I understand, he's not a gay man. Neither
of the two leads are gay, from my understanding.
So that's getting attention.
I think we need to revisit that. But
yes, we do. So what did I like? I think Henry Golding's very attractive, so he is fun to look at on screen. I think the film is beautifully shot.
Benjamin Kracun, do you want me to go further?
Go ahead.
Who recently lent The Third Day, that television series, I think I only watched the first 2 parts of.
Oh, with Jude Law?
Yes. There's a 2017 film he lends called Beast with Jessie Buckley that I really like. And also this 2014 film directed by Gerard Johnson called Hyena, which the opening segment of that film is worth watching it alone. The cinematography is great, especially considering there's a lot of moving elements in some of these shots. It's kind of like a beautifully shot travelogue.
Actually, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Well, my first note relates to what I think you were going to talk about. So the 2 leads are straight male actors playing these 2 men who like to have sex with other men. Their first date that we see is so awkward. It is so awkward. The writing is so awkward. What were you going to say about those two actors playing these roles?
Well, first of all, I like Henry Golding, although, Crazy Rich Asians was his big breakout, and he's in A Simple Favor as well, in that terrible Christmas movie, Last Christmas. But to me, now having seen him in 4 performances, he's always kind of the same. He, of course, is very attractive and very easy on the eyes, but even across those 4 performances, he's very much the same. So there's that. I do like Parker Sawyers. He played Obama in Southside with You, which is a film I recommend watching, where it's about his first date with Michelle Obama.
And a Janet Jackson song is playing.
A Janet Jackson song opens the film.
I haven't seen it.
So there's that.
His name's Parker Sawyer.
Sawyers, yeah.
Sawyers. He's definitely the stronger of the two, I think.
Sure. I also read that Hong Khaou had written that character as a white man, and through the development of the script, they thought that person's perspective in Vietnam has already kind of been told. And I do really like seeing this black man and this Asian man in gay romance. I think that is sadly a novel scenario. So I do like that component of it. It's just that I think that neither of them really have any chemistry. And,
zero. As my mom would say, zero nothing.
Yeah, and I don't know, it's not necessarily their fault as actors. I think the script does try to be, I don't know, neo-realist, maybe that's a stretch. They really have nothing to do, and it would have been nice maybe if one of them was actually gay to see some kind of yearning there. You don't see it. That said, there's all kinds of stuff that's come out lately about straight actors playing gay roles, and I think the dangerousness there is that also goes for
The dangerousness.
Do gay actors not then get to play straight roles because it's not believable? That is the thought process that has kept gay actors in the closet, because they will be blacklisted from playing straight roles. So it doesn't bother me to see straight people engaged in queer representation. And also, we don't really know these people. We think they do. We know that they're married to women, but we really don't know what their relationships are. We don't really know them. Sexuality is such a I don't want to say it's not tenuous, but it's very personal, and we don't know people's real life, and it doesn't matter. And that's where we get into reception theory and the baggage we bring in. No, that's the thing. Where
I know it's a thing.
The baggage you bring in, and I think that's where trans representation it's really necessary to have that kind of representation, actual trans people playing trans characters, because we, watching a famous actor play a trans woman, we're constantly having to have our attention devoted to them and the performance of being trans, and taking away from that representation. That said, that part doesn't bother me. Again, getting back, and you don't know people's lives, and you don't know.
Well, let's talk about these characters first.
I wanted to bring up Rock Hudson in Pillow Talk as an example.
Okay.
Who was a closeted gay man who was playing a straight man who's pretending to be gay in the movie to get the attention of Doris Day, and the kind of all the kind of cultural components that are really placed upon that. So I don't think that should be the focus of the discussion.
Even though it has been, but
Yeah.
no, and I don't think in this film, I don't think it's that serious. I'm assuming this is this person's second movie, I think if you can get Henry Golding to play a gay guy in your movie, you're gonna take him.
Yes.
I think the choice of Parker Sawyers, like you said, maybe having chosen an actual gay guy to play opposite would have served everyone better. But that's not my issue here. I think the writing. Maybe this person, I don't know who wrote the movie, but maybe this person didn't write it in English and then it was translated.
No. So Hong Khaou, his first film, which I like better, it's called Lilting from 2014.
Okay.
But I very clearly remember seeing that film. It opened at Sundance, and it was 2014, and it played. So the first day of any major film festival, the core press are all they're all in the same place because there's limited options that first night. So Whiplash was the film that everybody saw first, which is very energetic movie that, you know, went on to win what's his name an Oscar and blah 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 with Miles Teller. What's his name? Jay. Anyway, and then immediately afterwards, we were all ushered into Lilting, which is much like Monsoon, very slow, a bit on the dry side, contemplative, and that stars Ben Whishaw. His husband, his partner has died, and he has to deal with his partner's mother, who's Cambodian and doesn't speak any English, and is played by Pei Chang. But there's a lot more to go on there that feels a lot more personal than this.
Okay, so getting back to this story, I think, so when Kit first arrives in Vietnam, we see him travel to like a childhood friend's house.
Lee, played by David Tran.
Lee. So the dynamic between he and Lee is a little tenuous, which made me think, oh, this is sort of like a delayed coming out story. I was certain that there was going to either be some tension between those two when Kit finally comes out to Lee, which he doesn't. Then at a point, because he sees Kit visits Lee twice. So the second time Kit visits Lee, I'm thinking, oh, maybe Lee wants to tell him he's gay. But that doesn't happen. Then on the train from Saigon to Hanoi,
Oh, the Frenchman.
Kit sort of has a rendezvous with the Frenchman, as in they're both sort of like near the restroom smoking. I guess like in the one part of the train they can smoke. I thought for sure there was going to be like some sexual tension there. There's nothing.
You know what I thought was interesting about that scene though is you have this Frenchman who he speaks to Henry Golding initially as
though he doesn't speak English.
Which is
sure.
Great. Yeah.
We see part of what I think makes Henry Golding playing gay so awkward is we see him having sex 3 times or 2 times.
There are a couple intimate sequences, yeah.
A few, and sex is in like he's clearly being intimate, but we don't see nudity or anything. But Henry Golding's character in all of the intimate sequences likes to play with people's nipples.
I did notice that, yeah.
Which I thought was kind of like...
No, I don't think that's...
I thought it seemed very contrived, like, oh, this is going to be what I do when I'm...
People do that.
People do that, but it just seemed very stiff to me that, like, all of the intimate sequences with him, he does the same thing.
Sure.
Like, it just is like, it doesn't feel organic.
Well, I think it would have been nice to have a different energy in that scene. He has that hookup in Hanoi, and it would have been nice to see how the energy would differ, which would show how he does have feelings for Lewis. Which I don't really get. You see Lewis, the Parker Sawyers character, having to. There's that sequence where I think they're on a boat having lunch, and he's talking about his own experiences, which have brought him to Vietnam because his father was a veteran.
Okay.
I don't know. I would have liked more of that, more from him.
The 3 calls Kit takes, he's wearing headphones. He's looking at his iPad, so I'm assuming they're FaceTime calls. But all of the calls that he takes, we hear him talking to the screen, but we don't hear the person responding. Which I thought was an interesting choice, because this film was already so damn dry. And then for the audience to just witness him talking to someone, and the talking doesn't really provide any exposition. It's just him going, oh, cool, huh, that's crazy. Like...
I think the problem is that this character is just kind of on a flat line. Like, I don't really understand what this experience of him going home again is doing for him. And I think that the romantic transition is supposed to be what gives this a kind of a dramatic catalyst feeling. But then I wanted it to feel like maybe this would have been better served as a period piece, like, because it's not really defined what exact year this is, other than 30 years since he's been there.
Well, the war happened when?
Vietnam ended technically in 75.
So...
And he's 36?
Well, if it's 30 years later, then it's modern time.
Sure. But I think the vibe that I think would have made this pop is, I want it to be like Hiroshima Mon Amour, where like Emmanuel Riva is walking through the ashes and falls in love with this, Japanese man, in the conflict going on. But I don't know, it just seems there's nothing really at stake for anybody whatsoever.
My final note is one of the characters, I can't recall who, says, "Are you bored yet?" Who said that? Did Kid say that to the girl?
I think
Someone said, "Are you bored yet?" And I started laughing because I thought, "Yes, I am."
Oh, it's when they're watching them make the lotus tea.
Yes.
Is that it? Yeah. Which could have been interesting. It was interesting to see all those little old ladies cutting up all the flowers. It just again just didn't seem to have any kind of real connection to, like, we almost spend as much time with her as we do with Lewis.
I just didn't. Yes, I just don't understand the purpose of this story. What is it trying to do?
I think it's, he had.
And what does Monsoon mean?
I think that's supposed to be a metaphor.
Yes, but like, how do you think they mean it?
Like a monsoon of emotion.
But there is none. So then that can't be it.
I also wrote down that Henry Golding, of course it's the accent, but the moderate level of expression, I kept thinking of James Mason.
Poor thing.
He has that kind of...
I think he's pretty.
Yeah, very pretty. But, yeah, I don't know.
Well, what would you give it?
Probably 2 out of 5. It is a beautiful film to look at, and the subjects, of course, are beautiful, but...
I would give it 2 out of 5 as well. Anything else?
No.
Bye.
Bye.